Joining us now to talk more about Glen Tuckett, legendary BYU baseball coach and athletic director, is the current head baseball coach of BYU, Mike Littlewood. Mike, thanks for coming in, on a moment's notice to discuss a man that you spent a lot of time with, especially in the latter part of his life. But what are your initial thoughts upon hearing about Glen Tuckett passing away and what he meant to BYU?
Yeah, I mean, I think my first emotion was obviously sadness. Coach Tuckett was out of the field last Wednesday. I had a chance to talk to him for about 30 minutes, and it was nothing about baseball. He was talking to me about Taylorsville and where I grew up and him at West High School and then Murray and just it was kind of an interesting conversation. Then he watched a little bit of our scrimmage, but I think the thing that I think about the most is how he has impacted people on a personal level, from the 60s when he was coaching here all the way through our team. I mean, he would get with our guys, with Andrew Pintar, get him in the hallway, and he goes, "No, tell me about your mom and dad." And like, he would just ask those questions that most people don't ask. Most people would go, "Hey, you got a great swing. Hope you are great in pro ball." That didn't even come up. It's like, you're a good guy. I love the way you carry yourself. Tell me about your parents. And so just the impact he's had on so many people, and myself included.
You called him Coach Tuckett. He hasn't coached here since the 70s, but like you're saying, he has been a coach for a long time, and it sounds like was still coaching until the last couple days.
Yeah, he definitely was. I felt like every time he would come up to our practices at least once every month. Sometimes when he was feeling good, it would be every other week. And I would see him come up on the first base side, and he just stands there and watches, and I would always go over and talk to him, stop what I'm doing and go talk to him. And then we would go to lunch every once in a while, and he loved JCW. He would get a grilled cheese. He would get a small milkshake, chocolate. And we would just talk, and he would question me about practices and why I'm doing certain things. And like we have a drill, bunt defense drill, and he goes, "Why do you have all 5 of your catchers doing it? Why don't you just put in the 2 that are going to play in the game?" And I'm like, "That's probably a good idea." Never thought about that. But yeah, it's amazing how he could watch a game and he would come out and go, "Now is this kid? He looks like he does this." And he even Wednesday, it was like, "I need to meet him. One of our pitchers, I need to meet him. I noticed he did this and this," and he could talk detail about baseball till the very, very last day.
I always appreciated when I'd see him at baseball games, and in fact, a recent memory, I was crossing the street in front of Miller Park with him, and he paid me a compliment on the broadcast, and that one always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And the people that are with him say, "Hey, don't take that lightly. He doesn't offer those very often these
Trust
days."
me, I got the opposite critique, as I mentioned last segment. Yeah.
But just really appreciated the interactions I had with him, and you're in the presence of a legend.
Yeah.
And it's hard to overlook that when you're talking with him. But I know you're full of great Glen Tuckett stories. In fact, we were told that he was consistently upset with you for one reason or another. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Well, the first thing was when I first got the job 10 years ago, he came in, and I dressed like I dressed coaching. Shorts, and I'm ready for practice, and we're doing office stuff, and he came in and he goes, "Well, when I coach, we had to wear a coat and tie," and he goes, what time do you teach your classes?" And I said, "Well, I don't have to teach, because Coach Pullins, when I was here, he had to teach as well, coaching baseball." And he goes, "You ought to go talk to Tom Homo and see if you can teach coaching baseball. You should be teaching that class and wear a coat and tie." So every time he would come to the field, I'd go, "Man, I should have just brought a coat and tie just so I can see him coming and put a coat and tie on." But
you're out there on the field,
on the mower, yeah. But he was. You hit it right on the head. It's being in the presence of a legend, and you're afraid to do anything wrong because that watchful eye is looking over you. And my first story with Coach Tuckett actually was when he was the athletic director here and I was a player. I was on tuition and books and should have been on a lot bigger scholarship, but that's all I was on. And I turned in. We had a deadline to turn in our books. If you don't turn in your books, you don't get them the next semester. I didn't turn in my books for some reason, probably because I just procrastinated.
Busy hitting dingers.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And so I went to Coach Pullins, who was my coach, and he set me up on this one, but I said, "Hey, I just for some made up an excuse why I didn't turn him in," and he goes, "Go talk to Coach Tuckett." So I opened his door. I think he had, back in the day, in the 80s, he had one of those buttons where he just opened it.
Lavella Glen had the button,
yeah.
right?
I'm getting a button in my office, by the way. But I said, "Hi, Coach." I turn and he goes, "Well, what does the rule say?" I said, well, you turn him in on this day. He goes, that's your answer. And I'm like, okay, goodbye. And that's how he was. So when you say he didn't offer you a compliment, he was such an honest guy, but such a loving guy, and you know, such he's such a people person.
We were talking about his legacy in terms of like the whole athletic department, and then football. BYU wins the national championship and has a Heisman while he's here. I mean, and it wasn't just football; it was getting Miller Park built. You know, eventually after his time was up, he was essentially the emeritus AD. He still could walk around and talk and interact, and Lavelle was the interim head coach after he was retired.
Right. Yeah.
It was great to have him around, still offering that. Any other stories that stick out from his life as a coach or AD? Well, 2 College World Series as a coach is the standard, right?
Well, we had September 10th was our alumni weekend, and we had Mike Staffieri was one of the members of that team, and I mean, gosh, I could go down the line. Mike Fulser, Brad Bevan, who coached against me when I was in high school. We had the 50-year anniversary of the 1971 World Series team, who I think they ended up they lost to Harvard, but that's the last team from BYU that went to the World Series, and they had 13 or 14 members of that team and spouses that hadn't passed away. I mean, those guys, they're in their 70s, and the stories that they were telling about Coach Tuckett, not about baseball. It was after, my son had cancer, and he called and he sent me a note. My daughter got married, and he sent me a note. It was I think those are the lasting things that people remember about him. I mean, we think, because we're in the baseball world, his picture's on the outfield fence. I mean, if you're a coach, that's your goal, to get your, do such a great job that they put your number or your face out somewhere, and not for a personal. That just means that you made an impact.
Yes.
Yeah, you made an impact.
Yes.
And so not only is his name out there for the baseball, but that's such a small portion of what he's done, not just at BYU, but impacted lives for literally 70 years.
Mike Littlewood, the head baseball coach at BYU, is with us on BYU Sports Nation. We're remembering Glen Tuckett. I just can't get over what he was able to accomplish, not just as a baseball coach, but as the athletic director with so limited resources in Provo. I mean, we look around and BYU is spoiled right now, beyond belief.
And it will be even more spoiled in the Big 12,
yes.
right? There will be more money.
And I'm glad that he got that information before he passed on, that BYU is going to be a member of a Power 5 conference, because he laid the groundwork for something like that in a major way.
Did. Yeah. And I think not only Coach Tuckett, but everybody, Lavelle, and just you can go on and on and on. And Coach Homo talks about this.
You call him Coach Homo?
Anybody who coaches,
coach.
I feel like that's the respect thing. You call him coach. I've just always done that. I've never called one of my coaches by their first name. But I think everybody who's come before has laid the groundwork for this. But Coach Tuckett goes to Alabama and does the great things. Nobody really thinks about all those things that he does. They just think about the great things he did on the baseball field. But those who know him truly know what kind of a guy he was, and I'll never forget him. I mean, when I got the call, Shannon, his daughter, called me, left me a message this morning that he had passed away, and his wife Jo passed away a few years ago, and he would tell me all the time, he's like, I'm still lonely, and so to have them reunite, man, what is better for Coach Tuckett?
Fantastic. And that's a great way to finish this conversation. We appreciate you coming in, Mike. It's so great to talk with you and to remember Glenn. And of course, we need to congratulate you on a win in the offseason over Utah as well.
We'll take Utah.
Couple of wins.
Summer, fall. We'll take wins over Utah.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.